Hello, good evening, and thanks again for another edition of Ideas Exchange. This is TVXYZ. This program actually brings you the issues that border this country. Tonight, our focus is on the NDC. It's at its crossroads. The reason is very simple. Tension is boiling. There is some level of anger within the political party. But the reason is very simple, that one of the flag bearer aspirants has placed an injunction on what would have been their election to elect a presidential candidate and those who will represent the political party in 2024 at the various constituencies. I'm talking about the parliamentary aspirants who become the candidate for the party going into the 2024 elections. The reasons are very simple because Dr. Dufour believes that the photo album or the voters register he has received has some kind of discrepancies. He's suggesting that some number of people have already been disenfranchised, and he believes that the way the register has been compiled may be to the advantage of one of the presidential aspirants. So he has gone to the party to lodge his complaint, and even as the party was preparing to address the issues that he has raised, he's gone to court, he's placed an injunction, and that case is yet to be heard. While the party is lobbying to get him to understand the issues so that they would be able to hold their primaries this Saturday, May 13th, another presidential aspirant, Kojo Bonsu, has also issued a statement. Of course, he granted a public interview and he's saying that he backs what Dr. Kobna Dufour has done, that the election should be suspended. In fact, if you look at one of the claims in Dr. Kobna Dufour's petition to the NDC, he says that, and for the purpose of making sure we quote exactly, he says 3,910 eligible voters in the voters list for 2020 constituencies received so far have been disenfranchised. He also says that it will be necessary for all these issues to be addressed before the NDC can hold its presidential and parliamentary primaries. While all this is going on, we know that the court initially set May 15th, that is next Monday, for the hearing of the case, when the NDC would have expected that this would have been fast-tracked so that if anything at all, Saturday they will go for their elections. At the same time, we know that the Electoral Commission has issued a statement today, and that statement is very categorical, that they will not be part of the presidential and parliamentary primaries. That is, should the NDC had decided to go ahead, snub what has been put before the court, the EC says, I'm not going to be part. And what we understand is that the EC says it will need at least 3 days to prepare to carry the election materials to the various constituencies across the country for the process to take effect. But while all these things are going on, I have put together some critical questions that I would share with you on the screen so that you reflect on it while we move into the details of this program tonight, which is focusing on NDC's primaries, the injunction, the implication of the injunction, whether some people have interest in making sure the NDC is scuttled in its process to get set for the 2024 elections, and most especially what this means to the rank and file of the party. One of the critical questions I would want to ask you to reflect on is what really are the issues raised by the NDC? And there you would see it on the screen. The issues raised by the Dr. Dufour's camp is very critical. Are the issues about the photo album genuine, and what could have caused the so-called errors? And this is very important because if it is a genuine mistake, then it is something that would be fair for both parties, I mean Dr. Dufour and the NDC, to address. But if the mistakes that we have seen some media houses put out is really what Dr. Dufour is complaining about, then people are asking whether there could be an internal sabotage to fit into the suspected agenda that the rank and file of the party are raising. How widespread is it to the extent that those anomalies could heavily influence the outcome of the elections? Again, does Dr. Kobuna Dufour and Kojo Bonsu really believe that they will be able to beat John Mahama, and so don't care about the implications of the cost, the delay, the suspicions, and the widespread anger against them. Again, and what lessons going forward will inform the NDC's operation and the strategy they would adopt at all levels after assessing how the interested parties are stretching the issues. And that is not all. Again, you notice that because how these things have been put together, you see from the screen that we are asking that what could have informed the Chief Justice, Kwesi Enin, and the court to fix May 15th for the hearing when they know very well that the election is this Saturday, May 13th. Could that decision have been taken into consideration the larger implication, or they do not simply care? Are the EC's hands really tied to that extent? Can anything change within the next 2 days? Because the NDC should go for their primaries on the Saturday, May 13th. And what is the party's official response? I'll share that with you. And has the functional executive committee or the council of elders of the party spoken to the issue? And most importantly, will the party go ahead with the elections? So tonight, we'll be speaking to these issues on the program. And while all these are going on, I am pushed to ask further whether what is going on is really something that had been planned long ago, as some of the NDC narratives are saying, or indeed there is something that the party itself must wake up to because it created its own problems. I'll be speaking to a legal practitioner. Of course, he has been representing the NDC at the various levels in the courts, at the national level, and various people I've known who have had issues with the courts or with other people who have taken them to court. And he's also a parliamentary candidate as we speak. But we know, and that's what I want to share with you, what we know as we speak is that the election is expected to take place in all the 16 regions. It may not take place, or will take place, we don't know. The presidential and parliamentary elections shall be held in 217 constituencies. 44 incumbent MPs will be going for this election unopposed, and there shall be no elections in 15 constituencies. And of course, there shall be no parliamentary election in the Manshia South constituency because of issues. Now, what I have picked as of this evening is that last night, the legal committee or the legal representatives of the party were held up in a very crunch meeting. That meeting traveled late into the night to weigh the injunction and the issues they can present to court to defend the case of the NDC. We also know that the party is still engaging. In fact, I'm told by somebody that perhaps if everything goes well tonight, they are going to meet Dr. Dufour's team in an attempt to fast-track the processes or perhaps withdraw the case from court. We also understand that the NDC was in court today. They were pushing the court to hear the case today because they told the presiding judge that they have everything to present to the court as to why they think this case should be thrown out. But the judge said, look, he's not ready, but would rather fix what the NDC wants to Friday, the 5th, this Friday, that's the 12th of May, 2022, a day before the scheduled parliamentary primaries. And we know that if this happens, and as EC has said, that it is waiting for the court to give its ruling on this injunction case, if the court should decide on Friday, and EC needs 3 days to prepare its election materials to the various constituencies for the NDC to hold its presidential and parliamentary primaries, then obviously you may draw your own conclusions. Let me speak to lawyer Kojoga Adawudu. He's a legal practitioner who is well known for the cases he has handled on behalf of the NDC. The latest was the election petition case in 2020. He is an NDC parliamentary aspirant for Central Tong constituency. He's on the line. Thank you very much for your time, Kojoga.
Good evening, and good evening to your cherished viewer and listener.
Good. First of all, we are praying that this election goes well for you, because this will be the first time you want to represent the NDC at the constituency level. So far, how has been your campaign?
Oh, it's been very good. The good people of Central Town will understand the dynamics and what they want. And I think that overwhelmingly, everybody says that they have seen the work that we have done, the contribution we've done to our party and to this nation. And they think that I deserve it for the job to be done. So we are on it. We are soldiering on.
And what are the dynamics of Central Town? Because, of course, we may know that some of them may be fishermen or farmers or largely living in rural areas, and so may not appreciate the value you bring on board. Do they really understand what it means for you to represent them at the parliamentary level?
Yes, I'm sure. Principally, farming is our stake.
Mm-hmm.
The mainstay of our people is farming. We do a lot of cassava. So we do processing of the cassava into gari, and there are other things that have to be done. Yes, if they don't even hear, they see. At the beginning, when we used North Tongue, I've seen the representations that have been for the constituency and how things are as we speak now. So they know what is representation of their people, and they know exactly also the dynamics as to who should lead and how they also understand the cultural undertones that they need to be one, they need to be focused. Although we may have two principal traditional areas within the Central Town constituency, they understand that they have lived as brothers and they will continue to live as brothers. So, yes, others may see that there are different traditional areas within, or their dialects may be different a little bit from each other, but all they want is that they want effective representation, they want leadership, they want transformation, and they want a change.
Okay.
That they will also be proud to say we come from Central Town.
Right, and we are strongly sure that they may have to take the right decisions, and we want to wish you congratulations in advance. Now, let's come back to the critical issues. I'm sure you've read Dr. Dufour's injunction that was filed. You've heard a few responses here and there. For you as a lawyer who could have represented the party but for the campaign on the ground, what do you make of this injunction in the first place, and how did it come to you?
I think it's something that with every election, you will find some irregularities, or you find few other things that had happened, and arriving at the album or the delegate list. Normally, it starts from the constituency when they are compiling the names of the people. We have this constituency, some are in very rural settings, and even getting people over there to be able to put them together sometimes is a problem. So when election is to be held and the compilation is being done, most of the data is sent to the headquarters, and headquarters need to sieve the data and put it in the right order. Let me just go back a little bit so that we can put it in perspective. Hello?
I'm listening, Kojoga.
Put it in perspective. I used to be, and I was the national coordinator for Professor Joshua Alabi's campaign in 2018. We had similar issues where the results or the album and the delegate list. But we raised this issue with the committee, And I can tell you that whilst we raised these issues with the committee, we were able to resolve them because it's an issue of putting all the names together. And you're dealing with huge numbers. There may be repetition in the register. Some may come without the album or the photograph. Some may be misplaced. And while the parties have good faith and they agree, I'm sure it is always done and they come to an agreement. So it was a little bit shocking for me that the parties will not be able to sit down and resolve this matter, that this matter would go to court.
Okay.
It's a little bit surprising for me, unless there is other reasons or motives that they may go. But I think principally all I hear from or I read from the writ is that the delegate list or the album has some irregularities in it which needed to resolve. And two, they were to be given some albums which are not yet ready.
Okay, so now let's go to the technicalities when it comes to how these legal issues are addressed. The NDC, we know, has fixed Saturday, May 13th for the presidential and parliamentary primaries. And this injunction was filed. What could have informed the court's decision to fix May 15th for hearing when many people think, for an ordinary person who is not a legal brain, thought that knowing very well the implication to what the NDC has planned to do, the court may have considered fast-tracking this and fixing a date earlier so that if it could be resolved, that would not mar the process NDC intends to embark on?
Normally, when you go to court, and it is the registrar who gives the date, but normally the registrar will ask the court, the person filing, your clerk, what date do you actually want? And normally for a motion, it is fixed within 2 weeks. So provided it falls within the 2 weeks, the registrar will give you the date.
So in this case, the court cannot be faulted for fixing 15. So the date may have been provided by the complainant in this case.
Yes, by the plaintiff. So it should be the plaintiff's lawyer who would say, okay, this date I think is okay for me. So maybe the motive is that, yes, I know the election is slated for 13, but I think that because I want to stop it, I don't want anything to be done. I don't want it to be heard earlier for it to be dismissed or to enable the process to go on. So you may ask for a date and say that, yes, technically, if I file it, nothing can be done. So that would be it. Two, that is why I think the legal team decided that they want to go back to court and abridge the time. When we say abridge the time, it's move that the court has power to say that this matter, because of exigency of time, we are moving it, and the same day we can move the application. But I understood from my legal team and others is that when they went, because of the justice system that has been introduced, when you file, and because it has to go to a judge, they will have to scan it. The scanning takes a little bit time, but I think as the agency demands, it could have been done. But, the other issue was also that it has to go to a judge who will have to look through before he can decide. That is why the court has power to bring it. That we call abridgment of time. It will abridge the time. Now, if the time has been abridged to come on Friday, that will mean that it will be on that Friday that the court will now give time as to when the motion will be heard. So the court can decide and say, yes, I can hear the motion on Friday. Hello?
I'm listening, Victor.
I can hear the motion on Friday, or I'll fix a date on which I can hear the motion. But I think principally because of exigency of time, and the agency of it, looking at the hardship, the court should be able, once it brings the motion to Friday, should be able to hear the motion, because the court has the power. After you have filed all your documents, there is no need for you to come and argue. The court can go ahead and give its ruling.
Okay.
The court can.
Go ahead.
The court can also decide and say, "Oh, I've listened to all your submissions. I'm fixing a date on which I'll give my ruling." So that is another dimension, that it is the discretion of the court that you can decide, I will take your argument, I will go and write my ruling and come and deliver my ruling on a certain date.
It's becoming interesting. Okay, look, I thought you were wrapping up, but just finish on that note, and then let me go ahead with my next question.
Yeah, the third option will be the party, as I think that is what the party is looking at the moment, is to call the plaintiffs. What are their grievances? These are the issues. If this is your grievances, we are resolving it. And when we are able to resolve this matter, because we are from the same party, the same family, and these are the irregularities you've complained with, this is what we have done so far. The parties can go back and file a terms of settlement. And once the terms of settlement is filed in court, or we even withdraw the matter. When the matter is withdrawn, then it paves the way for us to be able to go and have this our election.
Okay, so I get it from your presentation, Victor. Let me come in, because that would have been the other question I would have asked. That so the option now lies in the domain of the Dufour camp to either go to court and say, well, look, we have had a meeting tonight or maybe tomorrow, and then we are withdrawing the case, or the court has its own discretion to hear the case on Friday or set a date, which could be July or maybe August. Does the court have a time frame within which such injunction cases must be heard, or it is at its will to decide when it should set a date for the hearing to be done?
Well, no, if the court fixes a date that the hearing will be done, it will do that. But it also has time that he can give the ruling then and then. So that's what we call bench ruling.
Okay.
Once the arguments are made, the bench or the court can give the ruling. However, he can also say that I'm going to rule, go and come in 2 weeks, or go and come in a week. So it's a discretion that has been given.
So the court could also say go and come in 1 month.
Oh yes. It's a discretion of the court.
All right. So thank you, Victor.
Looking at the exigency of time, I think the best option is to appeal to the Dufour camp and say, look, we are working on it. We are resolving the issue. We have resolved the issue. Look at the party. Look at the members of the party, the cost and the inconveniences that may cause the hardship. And if this is what will go on, it goes on. One day it may come back to haunt you. It may haunt your generation and others. So let's look at it. Let's make peace. And I think by a stroke of pen, if they agree, they will just go back to court and withdraw. They don't even need. They only have to go on Friday and announce to the court we have withdrawn. Even tomorrow, they will be able to tell the public that, yes, we've gone, the issues have been resolved. We are only waiting to go on Monday. So everything can go on. It is your case. You have sent the case. The court has nothing to do. If you tell the court, I've withdrawn my matter, the court has no issues with it.
Okay, thank you very much for the legal education. Victor Kojoga Adawudu is one of NDC's legal representatives. He's the NDC parliamentary aspirant for Central Town. We'll be getting back to you if need be, and we wish you well in your campaign activities.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
So,
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. We are so grateful for this instructive information we've gleaned from your knowledge. Now we have three parties. The Dufour camp has the key now to NDC's parliamentary and presidential elections. Whatever they decide this evening or tomorrow will inform what will happen. But there are two interested parties. These parties have not been friends of NDC over the last few years, if not days. The EC itself says, look, I've been served. And so until the case is heard, I cannot supervise the presidential and parliamentary elections. And if the EC doesn't supervise the presidential and parliamentary elections, it will mean that the EC itself cannot accept whoever NDC will choose if they decide to go ahead, because that will be illegitimate. Again, the court may decide to set a date or hear the case immediately. And so the public will be looking at what the court will do on Friday. And that will feed into the suspicions around, because as we speak, the narratives on several NDC platforms and on mainstream media is that there are some powerful hands outside the Dufour camp or the Kojo Bonsu camp or any other camp who are instigating all these. And they are tying this to personalities around the Dr. Dufour campaign and what NPP social media has been churning. And you will notice on the screen as I share that the moment that the rumors went round that the case has been sent to court, social media handlers were following what people were posting. And the indication was that almost as immediately as Dr. Dufour filed this writ in court, we had people who they describe as NPP apparatchiks who were on social media sharing what Dr. Dufour has taken to court. So it would mean maybe they anticipated it and they were waiting at the court to notice it has happened so that they can run with it, or they are happy it has happened. And so you will see from the pictures on the screen that several of them, please, you can move on to the next. And I also monitored my colleague with me, I worked with at Metro TV, Paul Admotri. And you will notice from his recent narrative that he has been prosecuting an agenda against the NDC. And he was happily sharing some videos on screen as what he had picked from the Dufour camp that they gave it to him, which showed the photo albums. And please, you can move on to the next slides, and you see the NDC register, which was shown, that suggested that Dr. Dufour had a case about what he described as anomalies in the voters register. So this is what he shared on Good Evening Ghana. And you will notice as they roll that there were faces that were the same, but pictures that show the same people, but different names and so on. That is why in the initial narrative or my monologue, I suggested that either these were genuine mistakes or it is possible that there will be somebody in-house who knew very well that this will create the fertile ground for somebody to run to court. And so these are the issues that have been running around. So what is government interest, and why is NDC suspicious that government has an interest in this? What is the court's own interest in this case to make sure it is expedited? Because the NDC is the largest opposition party. And because of what lawyer Adawudu has given to us, now the case is that either Dufour withdraws it from court, or the court decides to hear the case on Friday, or the court has the discretion to set a date, taking into consideration all the costs involved in running around the country by both the main presidential candidate, who is the presumptive candidate, John Dramani Mahama, or Dr. Dufour or Kojo Bonsu, both of who have decided that the action taken by Dr. Kobna Dufour is legitimate. Now, I'll be taking a short break, but when I come back, I'll walk you through the faces around Dr. Dufour and why people are targeting them as people who are bitter, and for which reason they are instigating this just to scuttle NDC's process towards electing a presidential candidate and their parliamentary representatives across the country. Again, I will also share with you a strongly worded statement by somebody who calls himself as the head of Dufour's security detail, who is sending a strong signal to the NDC that they are ready to crush the NDC and John Mahama if they dare mess up with the primaries ahead, whether it's Saturday or in future. Don't forget that next week, the EC will be preparing for the Kumewu elections. So if between tomorrow and Friday, the courts or Dufour's camp are not able to resolve the issue to give EC some room, if it wishes, to send materials for the election to be held, the process cannot take place between next week and next Saturday, May 23rd, when the EC will be preparing for the Kumewu by-election. So if anything at all, it may be after May 23rd, somewhere in June or in future. So it is a very serious case the NDC wants to handle. But let's take this break. Let me acknowledge my sponsors for the support they have for this program. And of course, you're also invited to be part of our sponsors to encourage us to bring you what you may want to hear or share with you as far as the national discourse is concerned. And then I will share again what is in that statement from Dr. Dufour's security detail and the picture of the person involved.
Welcome to the Royal Dazzle Event Center. With a lush and well-maintained lawn and garden, you are assured of the best serene and comfortable atmosphere to organize all your family and social events. Live the royal moments here with friends and family. The hosting capacity of 600 to 800 people makes Royal Dazzle the most versatile of places to host weddings, parties, funerals, conferences, concerts, and many more. Create your memories with us. Call us for inquiries on 055-814-8585 or 024-620-2144, or pass by and speak to any of our friendly staff. Locate us at Maijon, close to Zoom Lion headquarters. Royal Dazzle Event Center, creating memories. Best Wine is your one-stop wholesale and retail outlet for all your original favorite brands of wine, liquor, champagne at unbeatable prices. You can get discounts of up to 15% off. We provide customized solutions for your events with our event planning and catering services. Buy your well-stocked hampers from us at great prices. Best Wine is also a major distributor of X Natural Mineral Water. Locate us at number 34 Ni Norte Nyanchi Street, Jowulu, or call 050-761-3900 for delivery or for more inquiries. Best Wine, caliber of wine and liquor at its best. The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. X Natural Mineral Water. Simply natural.
Welcome to Auto Check Vehicle Diagnostic and Licensing Center.
I hear my car can be checked here without going to so many hours.
Sure. Emission, check.
Alignment, check.
Brakes, check. Visit Auto Checks at Koforidua Aquadrum Road for the roadworthiness of your vehicle, from saloon cars to heavy-duty industrial vehicles. Madam, your car is now ready for the road.
Thank you so much. Auto checks. Check.
Auto checks. Your safety, our priority.
Check, auto checks.
Welcome back. This is Ideas Exchange on TV XYZ. We are looking at NDC at crossroads. Dr. Dufour's injunction case, the concerns he has raised, and how these are playing out. Now, while the NDC leadership is managing to get the Dr. Dufour campaign team to iron out the concerns that have been raised, and the fact that the case is also in court and the party is working very hard to see how the court can quickly address them for the possibility of holding the primaries on Saturday, somebody has issued a statement. His name is James Agbe. James Agbe says he's the head of the security detail of the Dufour 2020 campaign. And so that is the picture of James Agbe that I've put on the screen. Now, he has issued a strongly worded statement. I'll read that statement along with you, but I'm sure while I'm reading, it will be shared on the screen. So that is it. It says, I, James Agbe, head of security detail of Dufour 2024 campaign, wishes to state unequivocally that the NDC belongs to all of us, and we won't sit down for Mahama to take us on a jolly ride. Now, he says, in fact, I do take the issue with the manner the Mahama camp is conniving with the functional executive committee of the NDC to disenfranchise the good number of delegates and to rig the process leading up to the forthcoming of the May 13th presidential primaries for Mahama. It goes ahead to say that the whole charade regarding the non-availability of complete photo album for the election is completely against the party rules of engagement. And it goes, indeed, it is extremely dubious, criminal, and illegal for the processes leading to the entire election to be hijacked by John Mahama. Now, I highlighted another paragraph, and it goes on. The display of utter greed by Mahama to win at all cost, rigged of poor judgment, and a complete lack of respect for the responsibility he holds as a leader. Now, if you look at the statement, I've put another part of this statement in blue color, and if my producers can help me with it, it says, can the NDC accuse the EC of electoral malfeasance and corruptible conduct when the party is trapped in the same scheme in its own backyard in all attempt to give Mahama an undue advantage over other candidates? It says, what is important of intra-party politics and leadership if they can't even publicly correct the record when they are wrong? This obviously is more like strong evidence that Mahama and his supporters continue to muddy the waters, or put it more plainly, deficit attention from failures and misdemeanors. Now, the last paragraph of this statement, and of course, I'm wondering why it is not being shared with us. It says, those of us of the Dufour team are ready for the Mahama and his diabolics. We are ready to bring an end to this opportunistic appropriation. I just wish the people who know better would sit up, but perhaps that cannot happen until we send out a strong signal to them that we are ever ready to beat them to their own game. We can't continue to suffer characters like the former president, who is hoping to stay relevant by being a perpetual flag bearer. Signed, James Agbe, head of Dufour's security detail. Now, this statement, if you go to Ghana Web now, as we speak, is on Ghana Web. Just around the time I was getting ready to come to the studio, this statement was published with a picture of the gentleman that I shared with you. Maybe for the purpose of the conversation, it will be shared again. This gentleman says he's the head of Dr. Kwabena Dufour's security detail. Now, the way things are unfolding is suggesting that either there is a third party, because the tone of the language here is targeting John Dramani Mahama. The tone of the language here suggests that there are people who at all costs do not want John Mahama to become NDC's flag bearer, when it is obvious from the campaign videos, from the narratives, from political analysts, even from government operatives, that John Mahama is the presumptive candidate. So for what reason will this gentleman issue this statement that they are ready to crush John Mahama's team? Is it an agenda to just create confusion, to mar the beauty of NDC's primaries? Is it a provocative statement to just create that confusion, to make it look like NDC is dirty? Is it weaving into an agenda of break the eight by some elements within and without to make sure that the NDC never have its peace of mind, therefore a certain break the eight agenda will go on? I want to speak to a security analyst. What this statement that is accompanied by God, Ghana Web is a credible website. The timing of this statement, the injunction case, the allegations, commentaries by people around Dr. Dufour gives some further push to the suspicions around what is happening. So the question is, who is really pushing Dr. Dufour's image to this extent? Is it government that is pushing its own agents around Dr. Dufour? Are they the bitter agents around Dr. Dufour? And this gentleman and the statement I just read, could he have written the statement himself? Is this man who says that he was around John Mahama in 2020 when he was campaigning as one of the security detail, so bitter about John Mahama and what happened between 2020 and now, that he says that John Mahama cannot continue to hijack the NDC? Well, I don't know whether I have my security analyst on the line. If I have him, I want to speak to him. If I don't have him, I'll walk you straight to what is feeding into the narratives. Now, Dr. Kwabena Dufour, just days before he went to court, suggested to Ghanaians that he's more angry against this government than anybody in the NDC. And this is what he said. He said, I funded the NDC, so I am NDC, and nothing can change my love for NDC. The MPP destroyed my banks and tried to collapse every business under my control. I want to tell you that the MPP has hurt me more than any other member of the party. The MPP can never use me to destroy the NDC. My main aim is to return the NDC to power to make Ghana better. Now, if you look at Dr. Dufour's statement and look at the head of his security detail, the statement he has issued, do they make sense? If you compare the two statements, as a level-headed person, if you reflect, does it make sense to you, or it is deliberately calculated to create the impression that Dr. Dufour is clean, he doesn't have anything to worry about, he has no agenda against the NDC, yet people working around him and their own commentaries are suggesting that there's something to worry about? Now, I will take you to the faces around John Mahama. Some say Dufour boys. Now, if you look at the faces of those around Dr. Dufour, all these faces have issues. They are either beta losers, former appointees who never got appointed under the Mahama regime, or their own narratives have suggested. Now, let me pick Solomon Nkansa. Solomon Nkansa was the National Communications Officer of the NDC. He lost to Sami Gyamfi. The race was competitive. If you look at Solomon Nkansa and look at Sami Gyamfi, nobody should tell you that Sami Gyamfi obviously will win hands down. So why will Solomon Nkansa, who was the communications officer of the NDC in the 2016 elections, all of a sudden turn around, and after all what he said for John Mahama in 2016, when he was campaigning, I followed the campaign throughout, and I know Solomon Nkansa is now. And so I'm told that I have a security analyst on the line. So let me speak to him. I'll come back to these pictures and speak to it. Richard Kumado, first of all, good evening and thanks for your time.
Thank you. I'm a security consultant. Security
consultant. I'm told that you are interested in one of the NDC seats. Where is that?
I'm not interested. I'm a leading contender in a Sege constituency, and I'll be winning that seat on the ticket of the NDC.
Thank you. So you are a security consultant, and of course, I'm sure you have read the statement you may have seen on Ghana Web. The tone of the statement, as a security analyst, How does it come to you, taking into
as a security
consideration?
consultant, not analyst. From what I read, I think there are three issues in there. He's expressing a grievance on the procedural issue. Then he is also talking about approach to elections, particularly within the NDC. Then thirdly, he speaks like somebody who has ever worked within the electoral processes or the electoral corridors of the NDC. And so what are the key issues he was talking about? He was talking about album not given to his camp. He was talking about a reconciliatory issue that may arise on election day. He was talking about the delay in releasing materials or relevant information to his camp. In every election, if you want the election to be successful, there are three things. The first level is what we call the 3 Ds. You transport, you move, and you distribute election materials to a specific area or within a holding zone. The second phase of that, or the second layer, is where you have the voters' identification, information, and insecurity. The third layer within every election process is where you have transmission, translation.
Yes,
you have
Richard Kumado, I'm sure everybody knows this. We called you as a security consultant, and so we are speaking to the specific issue of the adjectives he's used against John Mahama and the threat that as head of security detail, they are ready to crush anybody who dares to steal the election for John Mahama. That is the import, and for which reason we spoke to you.
Definitely. So allow me to finish so that your viewers and your listeners will understand it.